All right, welcome, Unsecurity Podcast listeners. This is episode 151 of the Unsecurity Podcast. We're in the middle of October already. It's October 15th, 2021. You'll hear this on October 19th, 2021. What are you shaking your head for, Brad? It's
I
gone too
can't
fast,
believe it's
right?
already. I know, nuts.
Yeah. So, for listeners who haven't listened before, that's Brad and I'm Evan Francine. Brad's my cohort, and we do good things together, brother. It's good to see
Yeah,
you.
try. It's in you.
It's a crazy week this week, like every week. If you're in this industry, for the newer folks and maybe the folks that are in it for maybe the wrong reasons. I think if you're in this industry for the right reasons, every week is busy as hell because you're trying to make a difference.
Yep. Well, and yesterday we had a very, very successful hacks and hops, even though unfortunately it was virtual. But that was fantastic. All the speakers were really good. Seemed
Wasn't
well.
it crazy?
A lot of really positive comments I saw, so that's awesome.
Yeah, and the attendance was, through the roof, and it stayed consistent the entire day, right? I think it started off at 9 and it ended at what, about 4 in the afternoon, maybe Central.
So yeah, right around 4.
And like you said, man, I was so impressed. Every single speaker, you know, was just awesome, right? It went from, I just did the opening, which is super cool because I don't like talking anyway and whatever. But it went from me to Joe Scargill, the
Yep.
Secret Service lead here in Minneapolis. And he just reiterated what we already knew and what I, said in the opening. We're losing this battle, this
Yep.
game.
Yeah.
So
He had some interesting perspective for sure.
yeah, and the questions back from him. And then from him to Aaron Brown,
Hmm.
and Aaron Brown is certainly we're disciples of the same mission.
Hmm.
So seeing Aaron preach how to build a security program from the ground up in a place where you wouldn't traditionally think of having great security programs like a printing company.
Yep. I'll take credit for that because I was his VC so for a while.
Amen.
No, he
And
he absolutely gets it. There's no question. That was evident from day one.
and he was like customer number 3 or 4 for FRSecure,
Oh wow. Yeah,
something
no.
like that. Yeah.
Aaron's awesome.
He was one of the customers where Tyler Briggs I was actually trying to make Tyler Briggs a security person back then.
That's funny.
Yeah, so Tyler was shadowing me on some of the assessment work, and it's crazy. But then went from him to Mike, Pinky Thompson,
And
and Mike Mike is a natural.
oh yeah. Yep.
That dude was
He and
that was impressive.
he did
Just
it
his whole.
with it was Red Canary, right? The
Mhm.
two of them kind of went back and forth. That was fun.
That was fun because for people who know Red Canary, they have a different sort of culture there. And you didn't know like which one of the Red Canary people. I mean, I didn't know which one of the Red Canary people we were going to get.
Right.
Uh, they're all great. It's just different cultures, different personalities, and the personality that paired up with Mike was
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
And I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
I don't. I'm so bad with names.
All right. You and me both, brother. We got to work on that. What? Now I got to look it up while you. What was after that? It
After
was.
that was with mental health hackers, which
Oh my gosh, was she
was it
crazy awesome?
Amanda, right? From mental health hackers.
Yep. Yeah. So it was Tony
That's
Lambert. Tony Lambert, senior intelligence analyst at Red Canary. That was who was with Mike. And the title of that talk was "Ransomware: Evil Will Follow the Sun Support."
yep.
That was
Yeah.
cool.
So then yeah, mental health. Then it was Oscar and Arctic
Yeah.
Wolf.
So new.
So, yep, that was a fun one.
That was
Yep.
good. That was good.
I liked that started a.
Oscar,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna
no,
say
you go.
it was funny because Oscar started a ongoing competition uh, for the remaining panelists. He had a picture of a 22-inch trout he'd caught, and so that was pretty funny how that went from there.
Yeah, that was cool. And that was yeah, that was a great talk. Every time I listen to specific, because they work for us, so listening to Mike and Oscar is a kind of a regular occurrence for me, and I love it. It never grows old. It's like you're talking to a couple of
Hmm.
buddies.
Yeah, I've known Mike for probably 10 years now. Something like that.
Yeah, these are a couple of buddies that got some
Yep.
chops, man. I mean, they're seriously top notch, some of the best in the world at what they do. Um, yeah, and then like you said, Amanda Berlin, the CEO at Mental Health Hackers, she had a whole bunch of really good things to say. And this morning I had a meeting with, we do the daily insanity check-in every day still. And this morning I think five of us maybe went out and bought a whole bunch of T-shirts. So Mental Health Hacker
Very cool.
T-shirts. I'm excited to see a bunch more in those around. I got mine on actually. I wear
Awesome.
mine a lot.
I'll have to do that. Yeah, there were so many.
Yeah, I bought. Well, the one.
I was gonna say no, just there
Go
were
ahead.
so many positive comments in the chat when she was talking. It was really cool to see.
You can't overlook, mental health, man. I mean, what's the one thing I get paid for?
Looking out for people,
I
right?
get paid for what's
Yeah,
up here.
yeah.
I get paid for what I know. I get paid for my brain, and if my brain's not working right, well, then you're not getting your
Yeah.
money's worth. Not to mention the fact that everybody around me suffers, including, my wife, my kids. I'm suffering when I don't
Hmm.
need to suffer, and in the worst case scenarios, it ends up in, suicide,
Yeah,
and we've seen that happen. So yeah, we got to
for
step
sure.
up on that. So that was cool. And then how to stay ahead of threat intelligence. That was Oscar and Sanu Shankar from Arctic Wolf. And then we went into talking
Hmm.
about cyber insurance. And I thought that was the one part of the conference I was not looking forward to, because usually when you talk to cyber insurance people, it's like I'm trying to stay awake.
Yeah.
But holy crap, did he do a good job presenting the facts? Addressed, I think, the biggest issues facing cyber insurance today, which is that the
Hmm.
landscape has changed, right? You may not you may not be able to get your renewal because you haven't evolved. You haven't built a good
Yeah. Oh
security
yeah.
program.
They
It's different now.
did a complete 180 and went from like you have cyber insurance, you have to like no. It's like there are specific
Yeah.
answers that if you don't have MFA on every external interface, OWA, VPN, whatever it is, that's an immediate rejection.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very engaging, enlightening. And then one of the people I'd never listened or heard speak before, who kind of finished out the day was
Makes
Mike Kennedy,
He's
the
fun.
founder of
I like him.
Astra.
Yep.
He's a
Yeah, I
straight
did
shooter, man.
a webinar with him earlier this year. Mike's a lot of fun. So that was the second in the shots across the bow because he had gone and added a picture of himself with a 25-inch. So Oscar caught a 22-inch rainbow and then Mike put in his 25-inch steelhead. And Oscar's like, Psh, it's a steelhead. That doesn't count.
Right? Yeah. It's cool when you can have
Oh,
fun, but
100%.
Mike's a straight shooter, perfect partner for I think for FRSecure because
Hmm.
we do it right.
Yeah, I like working with him.
shortcuts. No,
The best
don't
comment
buy
I
more.
saw in there was, well, it
Yeah,
looks like Mike qualifies to work for FRSecure because he's got a great beard.
yeah, you gotta have a beard. Even the women who work here have beards. No, maybe not. All right, so yeah, that was cool. And then today, what we're talking about in the Unsecurity podcast is we wanted to talk about incident response, primarily about incident response retainers, what the market looks like, the sizes and categories of IR providers with some of the pros and cons of each. We're also going to talk about explaining the difference between IR retainers and
Hmm.
managed IR, right? Different things. Um, I think there's a lot of confusion in the market because over the last few years, it's become a hot topic. When it becomes a hot topic, what usually happens in our industry, you have a whole bunch of people who rush in and say, I can do that, I can do that, I can do
Hmm.
that, because there's a whole bunch of money at stake. Uh, the fast movement, and I think somewhat the commoditization of this ends up being really confusing for
Yep.
buyers. So, so we'll talk through that, and then we'll talk through this new thing
Yep.
called Project Hyphae. Did I say that right? Hyphae? Hyphae? Okay. That's a new thing. It's really exciting that FRSecure is doing, and they announced that, and eventually that'll expand into some pretty cool stuff. And
Yeah,
we'll talk
maybe.
about maybe
See if we
some newsy
have time
things.
for it.
Yeah. So, and just real quick, if you want to find hacks and hops, just Google hacks and hops. You will be posting all the recordings of all the talks
Hmm.
relatively soon, probably before the end of the weekend. You can learn some stuff and give us some feedback and tell us what you like, and what if you don't like anything, just
Yep.
keep it to yourself. No, you can tell us, I guess. Okay, incident response retainers. What do you know about incident response retainers, Brad? Give it
uh,
to us. Lay it on the line.
I'd rather have one and not need it than not have one and need it. There you go.
That's
No,
true.
so incident response retainers, there's a couple of different ways looking at that. So um, you can prepay for hours. You've got a bucket of hours that if you have an incident, you'll already be, kind of onboarded with the IR firm, and then you call in and you've got the hours ready. You're not waiting for, statement of work and approval and all that stuff. It's already taken care of. We can get going really quickly. Um, then we have what Gartner calls like a zero spin, zero cost retainer. We call it our IR risk registration. Um, and that doesn't require any prepaid hours, but what it does is it gets like all the paperwork out of the way. So MSAs and kind of we go when we do it. There's a phone call with one of our incident response team members that kind of gets to understand the organization, goes through and kind of a lot of times able to give some really low hanging fruit, like, hey, these are some quick wins you really should do now as you're, getting ready. And then at that point, if they have an incident, it does cut down on the time because we don't have to worry about legal with MSAs and all that other nonsense. Uh, so that's at a in a nutshell, that's incident response retainers. Um, Obviously, there's the ad hoc, right? We get a lot of those. Somebody has an incident and reaches out to us, and so then we have to go through the MSA and all the other stuff. Um, and that can take time. If it's at the end of the day and you're waiting for somebody to approve an MSA, well, maybe it's the next day before we're able to get started, and that can be the difference in being ransomed or not.
No, very true. And we've learned this. We've grown just like everybody else has grown. Back in the earlier days, we would, due to the urgency of an incident, we may have chosen to respond to the incident before all the legal documents got executed. We can't do that anymore because that comes back to
Oh yeah.
bite. So it's not like the incident response. has any option. It's not like we can go, oh, we'll make an
Yeah.
exception. We understand that it's an active attack and things are going right now. So we'll just get started and then get the paperwork done
Nope.
later. You can't
No.
do that. So just getting that incident response risk registration, or what Gartner calls as the zero cost thing, it's important because you get that paperwork out of the way, and that could save you anywhere between a couple hours up to an entire day because we don't have to wait for legal to get involved and
Yeah.
all this other
Yeah. I would
stuff,
say
right?
probably on average, 4 to 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours is how much time it would save. And that doesn't even include the fact that we already have notes and understand the environment because we've gone through that interview, collected if you have network diagrams, things like that. So we already know what we're walking into versus trying to understand and learn the environment during an active attack.
Yeah, that's true. Huge time savings. So those don't cost anything, and they're good things certainly to have, right? If you don't have budget for, or maybe you're not mature enough, you're not ready for, more involved engagement.
Right.
Um, and I think one of the misconceptions we find is, well, I have to use who my insurance says I can use,
And right.
right? Like I have to be on their pre-approved list.
No.
You don't,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times, if you aren't getting that pre-approved list, you may not be getting a great incident
I will
responder
say
either.
that some are not as good as others. That we've come in after an insurance uh, IR firm was there and found they were still infected. So yeah, and our team knows
Yeah.
kind of how to work with that and what language to use and how they can help you request that we be added as your preferred vendor. So yeah, don't they? We work with the insurance companies, and not surprisingly, they want to use the lowest price, and you get what you pay for.
Well, and that's one of the things I think people don't realize. It's not like you didn't know it. It just you didn't feel it until it happens that the insurance company doesn't really work for you. They don't want
Hmm.
to pay claims. They're in
No.
business to make money, and if they do have to pay claims, they're looking for every way out of paying the claim possible and reducing the claim amount, which may not be the best approach for you to take.
Right. Right. And do you know what your insurance actually is? Because a lot of times, what is your deductible on that? Is it even worth going through insurance if the the initial response is going to be less than your deductible?
Right.
It might be better to not even alert them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so. Other everybody's always trying to get a leg up in our industry. So those are the primary types of incident response retainers, right? It's the risk registration or the no cost sort of like we just want to be on file so that when something happens, we
Hmm.
can call you, we can get going right away. That's on one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum is like a almost a full-fledged incident response as a service sort of thing, right?
Yep.
Where we are basically serving as your incident response manager. We're building your incident response program. We're assembling everybody to make sure your teams are all set. We're building everything from beginning to end, meaning that first initial call potentially to the help desk, and even beyond that,
Hmm.
informing everybody who you should call, right? Telling everybody this is where incidents get reported, taking it from there to, maybe an incident classification to, building out your incident response team, training your incident response team, doing incident response tabletop exercises on a regular basis. Um, the
Hmm.
full enchilada, right? That's on
I'm
the up.
pulling it up. So we call it's incident response managed service
Mhm.
um, for us. and it includes, you've got a dedicated liaison. Um, we do a IR maturity assessment that we built uh, with the team. Get monthly checkpoints. We'll do an external vulnerability scan up to a certain number of IPs. Excuse me. Um, weekly, kind of like, hey, here's what we're hearing. Monthly, talks. You get obviously a much better guaranteed SLA response time. Um, we'll walk through a ransomware readiness assessment. We'll do the IR tabletop. You get curated cyber threat intel and executive and management prep if that's something you want. And one of the things we do as well is either with managed service where you would get those services and buy hours, or if you just pre-purchase the hours, those hours are good for typically 12 months, but they don't just expire. Right? We're gonna let you use them for, oh, I need phishing, or I need pen testing, or I need an IR tabletop. Well, I haven't had an incident. Let's make good use of this. You're not just throwing money away.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. So those are kind of your, I think the three biggest options, right, are the incident response retainer, kind of this
Mm-hmm.
mid-level, give me a number of hours. So I always have you, no, the incident response like registration, we'll say, the incident response
Right.
retainer and
That's
the incident
first.
response service,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those are kind of the
Yeah.
biggest pieces. And those aren't crazy unlike the rest of what you're going to find in the market. They'll call them
Mm-hmm.
different things. Names will be different. Um, so if you were going to, I think in most cases, for me, like if I put myself in a CISO's shoes, in most cases, I would do the first one.
I,
I would give myself,
every time I would do the first one minimum,
yeah,
and I'd
I give
fight
myself,
hard for that prepaid.
yeah, I can see that too, the prepaid hours, because it's just a matter of time before you're going to need those, right?
Right. Well, and I know
Logic
I'm going
is
to use. I can use them for something else.
very good. Yeah, that's true too. Because I think there are some incident response companies out there that if you don't use the hours, it's use it or lose it.
Yep. Yeah, it is. And there are others that do allow you to use them. I honestly couldn't tell you, how our offerings compare. I wasn't part of that market research, but we have a pretty extensive list of services you can use.
Yeah, and I don't think, and for us, there's no shortage of incident response work for us. It's a constant flow,
Yep.
sadly. It's a service that, I know from, I guess, the CEO's seat, I wish we didn't have to offer. Every time we take those dollars, it's like, you just know that somebody suffered behind it. You know what I mean? This
Yep.
is money that you can't spend more on growing your business. This is money you can't spend anymore on giving bonuses to your employees, because you're spending it on an incident.
Mm-hmm.
It's reality. Doesn't mean I feel any better about it. Uh, so, in an incident response, help me understand or help the listeners understand how to choose. What should I look for if I'm shopping for an incident response partner?
Mm-hmm.
What should I look for?
I mean, it's the same as what you're looking for, I think, with your other security partners, right? Do you like them? Do you trust them? Are they knowledgeable? You know, we'll
Mhm.
we offer free triage calls. We're not going to charge. If you think you've had an incident, you can, send in an email or call our number, and we'll talk you through it. And if it's not something that's realistic, we're going to say, you're okay. We don't need to engage, and that's not what everyone would do. Um, so yeah, just I guess the biggest thing is feeling like you trust the person on the other end of the phone, that they're not trying to sell you on things. We'll put you on with a incident response case manager, not a salesperson. The first call if you're having an incident.
Right. Yeah, I think that's good advice. And I've always said there's three things you need to establish and maintain a customer relationship. For us, it's trust, credibility, and you need to like us. And you hit those same three things. Can you trust us?
Hmm.
Check out the reputation of the company. Ask for references.
Yep.
Ask other companies that use this you know provider. What's their experience been like? What do you wish they would have done different? Whatever those things are, reputation plays a big role in that. In terms of credibility, that's more about capabilities. Like the time you don't want to find out about if these guys are credible or not is when you're having an
Right.
incident. If they're like, oh, geez, we've never seen this before. I don't know what to do. You need somebody with confidence, somebody who's going to play it cool, somebody who's seen enough incidents, had their hand, feet, whole body held to the fire enough times. I've been, in my own incident response work, which I don't do anymore, I've been accused numerous times for, don't you even care? Because, you play it so cool, and it's like, no, I care. I care
Right.
deeply. I need to bring some calm to the situation because, you all are panicking and we don't make good
Right.
decisions
Exactly.
when you're
Yeah.
panicking.
And to your point, doing that
Uh,
research, that's why you want that either that zero, the IR risk registration or the prepaid, because if you're having an incident, do you have time to check out reputation? Right? Like, do
yeah,
you
do that ahead of
have, even
sure.
if you don't do either of them, do your research ahead of time. Know who you think you're going to call, or because yeah, when it's going down, it's it's chaotic.
hmm Yeah, when it's going down for sure. Uh, oh, and another thing on the trust thing, and I would prefer, and that's who we are too, right? Obviously, I want to be a company that I would prefer to work with myself, So it's not a sales thing. It's just why would I want to? Why would we want to build a company that
Right.
I wouldn't want to work with? But on the trust thing, what's really important to me as a CISO would be that the incident response team is
Hmm.
also product agnostic, and I know we hit on that a lot because the best time, the easiest time to sell something to somebody is when they're
Hmm.
in a panic and they're afraid,
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So,
mean, we use well in industry standard tools, but we don't resell them. And we were very clear with those companies ahead of time, like, hey, we're happy to use your tools, but we're not gonna turn around and sell them and pass through. We'll hand them off to you and then wipe that. That's between you and the customer at that point.
yep, yep, yeah. So, I mean, I think that's great advice. If anybody's looking for an incident response provider, your options essentially are um, the zero cost risk registration type service, the bucket of hours type service, or the managed service type service. Those are your options, and then choosing who to provide those things. Our advice is
Right.
you need to find somebody you trust, right? That's not have an ulterior motive, has your best interest at heart. This also is why you don't rely just on what the insurance providers are providing you, because
No,
they don't have the same motive. They're biased.
they're working for the
They want
insurance
to keep it
company,
cheap,
not for you.
not good. Right.
But I think all
Um, yeah. So trust and then credibility. Do some research on the team.
yeah,
A dedicated incident response team is critical. You can't have somebody that's like, well, I do IT and system administration on a regular basis, but I do incident
right.
response when it comes around.
No.
That's
Well,
not good
and again,
enough.
it all goes, I think it all goes back to being proactive with it, right? How do you know if you're going to like somebody if you haven't worked with them or at least talked to somebody who's going to be doing the work before chaos hits? Like,
hmm
yeah,
Yeah. It's good to become good friends with an incident response lead because when they're on the other end of the phone and you recognize the voice, you're like, hey,
Right,
Blake, awesome. You get this sense of like, I know you, you know me,
right,
I know we're in good
right.
hands.
And just because you've done an the risk
Yeah.
registration, that zero cost approach, that doesn't mean like do it and have the interview piece with get to know them. I don't care if you go somewhere else. Like it doesn't force you to work with us, but I'm pretty sure that if after you talk to our team, you won't want to go somewhere else. But we're not saying no.
They are damn, yeah, they are damn good. And we don't, we're biased. I'll admit that. You know what I mean? But if they
Right.
weren't the best, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it.
No, they're and not just skilled. They're just some of the they
I,
like you said they care. They're all just super calm under pressure. They don't get you know worked up. They don't yeah. They're just really good guys overall.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Because all the big players in our industry will tout to have, incident response teams. Also ask
Hmm.
for transparency. What are you going to charge me? When an incident happens, what's it going to cost? How much, you know, in an average, if there is such a thing, ransomware response, tell me how it works. How much
Yeah.
could it cost me? These are legitimate questions that I don't think people always feel comfortable asking for whatever reason. But you're in control. You're the customer. You ask the questions. Ask them all.
Yeah. And another really good one to ask is what's the minimum I have to buy? Because if you go to some of those big ones, they're like, if it's going to be, six figures, you know, it's going to be 100+ hours minimum
Right.
because they're working with a big guys, those Fortune 500.
Well, and the only time I would need one of those huge players, because I think some of those big players, take FireEye slash Mandiant potentially,
Hmm.
they have they have some tools that are, um, you know, not everybody has access to. Right. We also have tools that
Right.
everybody has access to. So it's not like better or worse, but it's two of those tools developed for, on the Mandiant FireEye side of things. A lot of those tools are developed for enterprise. They're developed for
Right.
nation
Exactly.
state kind of work, whereas our tools are built for our customers, which are typically we scale up to enterprise for sure, but most of those incidents that we're working on enterprise are basically the same incidents at small to mid-sized businesses, just on a bigger scale. So,
Right.
I think it's not a bad idea. Like if it were me, I would engage with a more niche player, like an FRSecure, as my primary
Hmm.
incident responder. But it wouldn't stop me from having another contact at another player. Because what happens if FRSecure for some reason is not available? What happens if we're impacted by the same incident somehow, or
Right.
we're just inundated? We just, you
Well,
know,
I mean, we
everybody,
almost hit
everybody
that.
in our customer, thing got hit at the same damn time. That can happen.
Yeah, I think we had when that exchange vulnerability came out in earlier this year. I think they had like 24, 26 cases come in that week or in the 2 week period. I mean, that's a lot of cases.
Right. Because the one thing we won't do in a case is shortcut. Every one of these cases takes time, it takes work. We don't, the proper way to do incident response, which is the way we do it, is we don't just rush to judgment. We go where the evidence takes us. So even if we have
Hmm.
two that look like they're the exact same thing, we'll confirm it. You have to confirm it, right? Rather than
Right.
just the conclusion, oh, this is just another one of those business email compromise things. Here, do this and you're fine. No, you got to
Well,
go further.
and that's what we see with some of those, you know, cheaper IR, lower price, I guess, or whatever, uh, they'll come in from the insurance company and they'll only look at the machine that was compromised and clean that one. Well, we all know that that's not how it works. They're going to pivot as quickly as they can. They're going to get as many beacons, as many entry points as they can. And so that's, ask them. That's maybe another good question. What is your approach? Like you said, like
Yeah,
what can I expect from you when this happens?
right. And the answer from whoever your provider is should lend itself to that trust, credibility, and you like us, right? If I'm
Great.
not answering your question, if you ask me a yes no question, and I'll give you a yes no answer, how does that sit with you in terms of like trust, in terms of, you know, it's a yes no answer.
Right.
It's a yes
Yeah.
no question. Or, or I ask you certain things, and do I feel like you actually answered my question, or did you just try to sell me something?
Right. Right. Like if you ask me that, what would I expect? I'm like, well, to be honest, it's going to depend on what's going on. I'm going to look at the whole organization. I'm not going to, we'll start with what we know, but let's see what's going on across the organization. Let's not just, we can't assume anything.
Right.
There you go.
Especially in the incident response, man, because how important is trust and credibility to your incident response team?
Yeah.
I have to trust you. You have the future of my company in your hands right now.
Hmm.
And so you better do this right also, because if you F up, you know what I mean? It's not the time to start, pussyfooting around and saying like, well, I went with this cheap stuff, or I just used my IT team. Hopefully you never have to use it, but the facts are the facts. You will have to use it and, do it right.
Well, and, mentioning the IT team, that's another good reason to be proactive because if it's an ad hoc you're calling in, I can't tell you how many times the IT team is defensive or your MSP is defensive because they're like, well, they're gonna beat me up. No, that's not what we're doing. Like, let's build that relationship ahead of time so we're here to help and we need your help to be successful. If you're fighting us every step of the way, it's only gonna make this worse.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, realizing that we're all on the same team,
Yeah, we're on your
right?
side in that case.
When you engage with your own incident response team, we're on the team together. When you engage with the insurance provider's incident response team, you're not on the same team.
Right. Yeah.
Just it's the facts, reality. All right, well, good stuff. If you do need any need any questions answered or anything about incident response, where to go, how to, you're not going to get sold by us. If you want to work with us, great, work with us. But we'll give you the answers you need. We have a whole bunch of free playbooks on FRSecure.com. We have a free incident response categorization tool. I've always believed the first four steps, if you're well prepared for an incident response, you should be able to do yourself. One, identify if this is an actual incident or if this is just a series of events that might look like an incident. You should have some level of confirmation that you can do yourself. If you run into the fact that you can't confirm that yourself, well, then, reach out and get help. But start that first process. You can do that. Um, Start to categorize that incident, put it into a bucket, right? And we have a tool, available for free that you can go do that. But in there are essentially those first four steps. Because one of the things we don't want you to do either is to engage with an incident response provider when you don't have to. You can always do it. You can always call us.
Right.
I mean, we're always available. But if also feel comfortable that, well, I didn't call you because of this. That's okay. You don't
Right.
need to. You know what I mean? We don't want you to waste your time any more than you don't want to waste ours. We want to make sure that we're using everybody's time wisely. So at FRSecure.com, somewhere on there, free resources, you can find a whole bunch of free stuff that you can play around
Yep.
with, some tabletop things.
Yep.
All right, so then we'll transition then to Project
Yeah.
Hyphae. That's the way I said it.
Yeah. Well, I think this is really cool. I'm really excited for Team Ambush and what Oscar has put together on this. It's yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So for those watching on video, this is, at the Project Hyphae website. And this is new for us. Um, we're creating Oscar and his team and others, right? I know you had a hand in it. We've all heard about it. This is a team effort, but
Yeah.
Oscar,
Oh yeah.
led it. Project Hyphae, Hyphae. There's a meaning behind that word, so go ahead and Google that and figure out what that is. Um, but what it is, it's we're developing a network of threat hunting volunteers, people who are doing this in their free time, doing it because they have a passion for helping others. It's also turns out it's a fairly good place to
Hmm.
keep your skills up. You don't want to just dump uh, people with new to this industry. You want them to pair up with somebody as they're going through this volunteering
Yep.
stuff, but it's a great opportunity. Right now, we're staffing it with FRSecure folks, but we'll eventually, I think, expand this out to the community. So we'll have a whole bunch of volunteers all working together to do threat hunting for
Yeah. For free.
for people for free, for free, like for free. Or are you gonna like
Nope.
charge me something later? No, free. We always do free here. We're free.
That's why you and I aren't allowed on sales anymore. It's free. We'll do that.
High faith, free.
There you go. Yeah, there's an FR Secure post that goes into a little bit more detail. It includes the information. Um, I'm sure that when they send out the tweet, they'll include a link to that or the alert that it's up.
Right. Well, so what it is now is it's this network of threat hunting volunteers, and if you go to www.projecthyphae.com, you'll come to the landing page for the project and free analysis of your network environment. There are 5 things that you can expect, actually 6, but 5 are more kind of tangible. Critical vulnerability check, insecure port exposure, leaked credential sets, IOC research, which I think is kind of cool.
Hmm.
Like the first 3 are, I can do that with a scan, not a big deal. IOC research is, to me, is pretty damn cool. That's also a scan, but it's cooler. The active attack analysis, I think, is really cool. And then having those recommendations. So those are the 6 things that Project Hyphae is built around providing, and again, free. And we opened it up to, or he opened it up to, on that page you have the team, who's on the team. There's Oscar with his big fish uh, and his beautiful hair. He's a beautiful human being. And then we're limiting it right now to the first 100 engagements or 100 organizations in the pilot of Project Hyphae. I'm guessing I'm guessing a lot of it's already full, to be
Yeah,
honest, even though we haven't like announced it. But
I think they may have reached out
I reached out to
to some already, like kind of a
yeah, go ahead.
no, yeah, I think they had a pilot group kind of demographic that they were gonna try to work with, but I had no idea what the status is in terms of how many are full up at this point.
When I asked Oscar before I made an introduction, because I'm doing a lot of work for states, like, do you guys want to take on a state? And he's like, yeah, we'll take it on. So yeah, we have a state that's going to jump on this, I think, which will be pretty damn cool. But go to the website. You can join the wait list, even if you don't make the first 100 cut. Get your name on the list. Eventually, this will expand out to where we're doing it, with volunteers all across the industry that meet certain criteria. So we keep the riffraff out, make sure that things are done correctly. We have rules of engagement, all that stuff squared away. Um, and then eventually, you'll be able to go out here and do this and get reports maybe
Right.
quickly, right? Rather than having to join a wait list. That's the
Yep.
plan.
Very cool initiative.
It is. I'm super excited to see where it goes, and I've already socialized it, like I said, with one state, and I'll socialize it with others as we continue to sort of go forward with that. All right, I have a meeting coming up here
Oh, wow.
uh, pretty soon with the CISO of the Air
Nice.
Force. Yeah, that's well, she's amazing. I don't know if you ever get a chance to talk to Wanda, but wow, she knows what she's doing. It's cool. All right, let's do shout outs, man. What do you got
Uh,
for shout
I'll
outs?
say just everybody, not only who participated in Hacks and Hops like as a presenter, but man, all the work that went in behind the scenes, and just shout out to them for making that successful and transitioning, unfortunately, to a virtual event, but just really pulling it off with no real hitches. I mean, I know how hard they've been working, so shout out to that whole team.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm gonna give a shout out to what I think is the hardest, like live part of those events, and that's
Hmm.
being the MC. And I think
Yeah,
I think Renee just killed it. I mean, she did such a good job. It's not a job that I would want to do because MCs have to keep the flow going. You have to keep kind of everybody honest. You have to fill those gaps. So you have to kind of think on your feet. And I know talking to her yesterday afterwards, she was exhausted. So I'm going to give a shout out to Renee. I thought she just did a
agreed.
great job yesterday. All right. Well, that wraps it for this episode 151. Let us know what you think about it. We're starting to get better and better at these things. Now, our marketing team gives us things that they want us to talk about. They don't get to control what we talk about because
Oh
we're
no,
not
not at all.
controllable, me and you, Brad. Mm-mm. So, but they do that, and we're now on this timeline where you should see every one of the podcasts released on Tuesday mornings. I think the next things that we're going to be working on is probably just improvement of my own equipment because I'm a cheapskate. I don't like buying
There you
stuff
go.
like this, so we'll figure it out. So follow us on Twitter if you like tweeting, whatever you do. I'm at Evan Francine. Brad is at Brad Nye. FRSecure is at FRSecure. Security Studio is at Studio Security. You'll find us somewhere. Look for that recording
Hmm.
of yesterday's awesome Hacks and Hops event. Go to Project Hyphae. Go get yourself registered for that. It's free. And don't buy IR unless you know what the hell you're buying.
There you go.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
We'll talk to y'all later.